Welcome back to the Aquarius training video series. In this video, we will cover installation and basic configuration of Aquarius Server. We will see how to run the database creation scripts to make a brand new empty database. We will run through the installation wizard of Aquarius Server. And then we will connect Aquarius Server to our new empty database and make sure that everything works. Our first step will be to log into the Aquarius 360 portal and download the Aquarius Server installation kit. Let's go to the Downloads tab and let's scroll down to the Aquarius Server section and start our download. When your download finishes, you will notice that it is actually a zip file. Let's go ahead and unpack it right here. When the zip file finishes uncompressing, you will notice a few items. Number one is the Aquarius Server installation wizard. We're going to run this a little bit later to actually install the application server software. There's a documentation folder, and this contains PDF files of all the Aquarius documentation suite, including the server install guide, which contains a lot of the steps that we're going through today. And finally, there is the database setup folder. And this folder contains the scripts that we're going to use to create and initialize a database schema that Aquarius Server is going to use. And since this is our first task in this video, we're going to look at that process now. Now, it's important to first copy this entire database setup folder to the computer where SQL Server or Oracle is installed, because it's from there that we actually have to run those scripts to create the database server. Now, in my case, I'm going to be installing both the Aquarius Server and the database server on the same computer, so I'm already in the right place. However, we do recommend that you copy this database setup folder to somewhere outside of your user profile folder. I'm just going to copy it to a temporary folder off the root of my C drive on this, my database server. We have found that this sometimes avoids permissions problems that are kind of unique to the Windows profile directory structure. It causes problems for the script sometimes. Now, before I can run my database initialization scripts, I first have to create a blank database within SQL Server so that those scripts have something to work on. So let's do that next. And again, remember that I'm pretending that I am logged into the desktop of my database server now, which again may be the same computer that you will be installing Aquarius Server on, or it may not be. So let's go to the Start menu. Let's go to All Programs. Let's go to Microsoft SQL Server 2012, and let's start up SQL Server Management Studio. And I'll choose to log in using my Windows authentication, using my Windows login on this computer. And an important point here is that you will most likely have to be logged into the computer where SQL Server is installed as an administrator of that computer to do the things that we're going to do next. Otherwise, it probably won't work. So let's connect. And if I look at my databases folder here, I see I have no databases on this instance of SQL Server so far. Let's make a new one by right-clicking and saying New Database. And here I'm going to put in the name for my database. This can be whatever you want. I'm just going to call mine Aquarius. And be sure you write down the name that you're typing here, because that's going to be important in the next step where we run the scripts. I'll hit OK. And there is the new database that I just created. That's all we need the Management Studio for, so let's just get that out of our way. And now I'm going to go into that database setup folder that I copied from the installation file, and I'm going to go find the folder that has the SQL Server installation scripts. That's this one down here. Now I'm making a brand new database here, so I'm not going to choose upgrade. I'm going to choose the install folder. And this is where my scripts are. Now I like to run the database installation scripts from the command line instead of double clicking them in Windows Explorer. So I'm just going to show that here. I'm going to pull up a command prompt in this directory by just holding the Shift key, right clicking, and then choosing Open Command Window here. So here I am in that folder. And now the first script I'm going to run is install admin objects.bat. That's this one here. Hit enter. And the first question it asks me is the name of the database. And here I'm going to put in the name of the database that I just created a few moments ago in SQL Management Studio. I chose the name Aquarius in there, so I'll type that here. The name of the server, running SQL server. If you are logged into the database server itself, as I am, you can just hit enter and accept the default of localhost. If you're running a different instance, a named instance of SQL Server, you'll have to type that here. But I'm running the default instance on the current computer, so I can accept the defaults. The next question it asks me is, what is the login name that I want the AQUARIUS server application to use to connect to my database? The script is actually going to create this login, so you can type whatever you want here. And I'll just go with the default of Aquarius, the same as my database name, but it doesn't have to be. And it's going to ask for a password when it creates this new login, so you can type in whatever you want to here. For simplicity, I'll just stick with the default of AQ. And then the script goes ahead and sets up some infrastructure pieces inside that database named Aquarius, as well as creating that login that the application server is going to use. And it should all run successfully. If any errors are reported, you will find a log file that the script creates in this folder, and you may want to contact Aquarius support to seek guidance on figuring out what happened. The next script we have to run is this one here, the install core schema.bat. So let's do that now. The first question it asks me is the name of the database that we're installing the schema in. Again, this is just the name of the database that I created in Management Studio. Again, it's asking me for the host name and instance name, and I can just accept the default in my case. And then the script goes ahead and creates all the database structures, tables, views, stored procedures, and whatnot. And when it's complete, you should get this line down here, installation complete. Again, if there were errors, they will be written to a log file in this folder, and you may want to consult Aquarius support for guidance in that case. At this point, we have a fully formed and working Aquarius database inside SQL Server, and our next step is going to be to install and configure Aquarius Server to use this empty database. We don't need this command window anymore, so I'm going to close that one. And I'm going to go back to the folder where I first unpacked that installation zip file, so that I can go find that installation program for Aquarius Server. There it is. So I'll just double click my Aquarius Server setup file here. And again, this is probably something you should be doing while logged into Windows as an account with administrative privileges on the computer. This installation process is really quite straightforward. It really is a matter just of clicking your way through the wizard. and then the rest of Aquarius Server will be installed, including all its prerequisites if they are required. Okay, at this point we have the Aquarius Server application installed, and we've set up and initialized an empty database in SQL Server. The only thing we have to do now is tell Aquarius Server how to connect to that database that we created. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to close off this Windows Explorer window, or get it out of our way, because we don't need that yet. And I'm going to go to the Start menu, All Programs, Aquatic Informatics, and here I'll find the Aquarius Manager. It's one of the components that are part of the Aquarius Server application. I start that one up. It just takes a few moments to begin. And this is the application where we actually configure how Aquarius Server works. Our system level configuration variables and settings are all managed within this application. And if you look at the top line up here in the license status, you'll notice that it is unlicensed at the moment. Let's fix that first. I'll click the Load License button, and I'm going to find my .lic file like this. This is my Aquarius Server license, and it will have been given to you in an email shortly after your Aquarius purchase was finalized. So what you'll want to do is take the files attached to that email and save them somewhere on your Aquarius Server computer in advance of this process. I'll just select it here, and that begins the Aquarius Server licensing wizard. Let's just click through this quickly here. The first step is to just choose your method of activation. For most people, the online activation mechanism will work, and it's the easiest, so I suggest we use that one. If it does give you error messages in the end, then contact Aquarius support, and we can walk you through some other alternative ways of activating your Aquarius Server license. Okay, let's move to the next step. And you can fill out your name, company, and email address in these boxes down here. The serial number box requires us to put in a long serial number. Now, this one will also have been provided to you in that email when Aquarius was first delivered to you. And I have saved mine in a directory called licenses. You'll have a file like this too, just sn.txt, and inside is your long serial number. So I suggest you just copy that to your clipboard, paste it in this box, and then you can move on. And as it says, it will now take your Aquarius Server serial number and license and your computer's MAC address and validate that against our license database. And that just takes a moment, and there we go. That was successful. Okay, let's move on. As you can see back here in Manager, the license status has been changed to licensed. Now, we aren't yet able to start Aquarius Server because we haven't put in our database connection details yet. Let's work on that one next. First, specify your server type. In this example, we've been using SQL Server all along, so let's keep with that. The server name, this is where you'll put in the name of that computer where SQL Server was installed and where you ran those database initialization scripts. And you'll recall I've been using this computer for all of that. So I'll put in localhost. For the database name, you can put in the name of that database that you created within SQL Management Studio. You'll recall I used the name Aquarius for my database. In the port box, you're going to want to put the TCP port that your SQL Server instance is listening for connections on. And from a previous video when we talked about configuring SQL Server, you will recall that we set ours up to listen on port 1433. So that's what I'll put in here. This is usually the default for most SQL Server installations. For username and password, I'm going to put in the login that I specified to that database initialization script. You may recall earlier in this video I chose a username of Aquarius and a short password of AQ. So finally, I'll just want to apply these settings. I'm just going to make that window a little bit bigger there. There we go. First, I'll test them to make sure my connection details work. And they do, so that's good. Let's apply them, and that saves them to my Aquarius configuration database. And now I'm able to hit the Start button to actually start the Aquarius server application. Let's do that. We wait for a few moments. We can see the status is starting. And shortly we see that the status has been changed to started. This is a good sign. This is what you want to see. This is telling us that the Aquarius server processes are all running, they are connected to the database that we specified, and your Aquarius server should now be available for Springboard connections. Now, even if you haven't yet installed Aquarius Workstation, you can still test that your Aquarius server is working and listening for Springboard connections simply by opening up a web browser, browsing to your Aquarius server's hostname /Aquarius, like that. And if all is working properly, you should come to the Springboard login page. And what's more, you should be able to log in with a username of admin and a password of admin. I'll just click login here and wait for a sec. And in a few moments, we get to the Springboard user interface. We don't yet have any locations or data sets, and our quick tools are disabled due to not having Workstation installed. But if you get this far, you've at least established that your Aquarius server is in good working order and is connected to your empty database. This is a good thing, and this is what you want to be shooting for at this stage. We'll cover Workstation installation and configuration in a different video. If you have problems getting into the Springboard application like this, do contact the Aquarius support desk and they can help you with some troubleshooting procedures.